We used MacDon for the first time in the fall of '06 on double crop beans, and we were sold on it from that point. The limiting factor for speed and during harvest was the head. We weren't able to cut at a very high rate of speed, but now our combines are actually the limiting factor, our threshing capabilities. We have less head loss because of shatter with the MacDon heads versus the traditional platforms. And with the cross augers, we had roping and bunching, so it wasn't feeding uniformly through the combine. So we believe we benefited there with just uniform feed through the threshing cylinder. Last year when we were looking, we were running a 40-foot cat head next to a 36-foot draper. And when we were counting beans, we found 1.5 to 2 bushel difference. Pretty consistently, sometimes it was 1. But that's why we feel that the difference in cost, the draper heads versus the platforms, we've paid for that in minimal time. And most mornings, well, every morning we can start early. Sometimes we can start too early, actually. These heads will take it. The combine is the limiting factor on that, separating it, but the heads will feed material that is too wet. So we can run probably half an hour before anybody else can with the platform, and at least a half an hour later. The cross augers have always bent with rocks in the middle of our heads, and we don't have that problem anymore. The rocks actually just stop right there on that center draper and before it gets into the feeder house. Last year I was going around the field with a 36-foot draper and caught the slag off of a concrete corner post and bent the head back. It was tilted back, I bet, 15 degrees. And less than a half a day, we had that thing back in operation. And if the second time this would happen, I bet we could have it back together in 3 hours or less. They are just simple to fix. And we don't have that center cross auger to deal with. So once that bends, that is a real big issue. We've had that in the past too. So they are, if you're going to crash one up, you want to definitely do a draper. Actually, it's this first head it's the head you see right now.
We bought the 36-foot draper last year, ran it to full season, and this season here, you can literally sit in the cab and watch this head pay for itself with less shatter loss. Just is so gentle with the crop as it feeds it in, and just the ease feeding our machine just increases our efficiency of our machine by the evenness, the flow of the crop. This year we have a problem a lot of people do with the green stem beans, and we run a second machine with an auger head and have a lot of problems with wrapping and plugging at the feeder house. Just absolutely no problems with this draper machine. It's just an extra a little bit of width going through the field too, picks up some efficiency there. In my opinion, the auger heads are about as wide as you're going to get them efficiently, and not having the big wide auger. And boy, that 40-footer just fed just like a dream. We can start quite a bit earlier, and we can definitely run a lot later. It's just because of the ease of the crop feeding into the machine, and you just don't have that wrapping and bunching and the tilt. This head will tilt from the cab, and you can help keep from shoving on the ground and damp type conditions like that. Yeah, it's probably gained us an easy hour in the morning and an hour in the evening. An average shatter loss or harvest loss is 2 to 3 bushel, and if we can cut that in half, just a bushel or bushel and a half at $9 beans, that's a lot of dollars left. Just really like this outfit.
There's just no comparison between the MacDon and a tabled auger green platform. We've thrown a lot of different situations at it. We've had very tall, gangly beans, and so far any situation we've put it in, it's handled it just fine. Just don't have the bunch feeding anymore, and it just cuts them off so nice and just sends it in evenly. And as long as the combine can take it, why it's gonna deliver to the combine. I mean, it's just as simple as that. One of our concerns before we bought the MacDon was the cutting. We weren't sure, since it doesn't have a flexible cutter bar per se, or it's what we're used to on a grain table, on a bean head. I've really been impressed with that side of it. We're able to follow the contour better, really, we think. With this 40-foot head, we had a 35-foot flex platform before, and the 40-foot MacDon cuts the beans off closer to the ground and follows the train just as well, if probably better, we think, than what our previous head did. Another nice advantage on the sickle bar is it's also hydraulically driven. The other day I got a horseshoe stuck between the sickle bar and one of the guards, and instead of slipping the belt and burning the belt or burning the flat spot in the belt before you get it shut off, why it just hydraulically kicks out the relief valve or whatever. So you just have to get out and find what the obstruction is and remove it, and then you're good to go again, so you don't do any damage to the belt or anything else, which is kind of nice. You're not having to replace belt once or twice a year because of flat spotting. I guess it costs more initially, but we feel like we're going to make that back pretty quick on the shattering loss. Just in our situation, if we just get back 1 bushel per acre for the prices of the beans are now, we're easily looking at $10,000. Probably realistically closer to $15,000. We don't know why anybody would want a table auger bean head. Basically, we just don't see anything wrong with it. Don't know why you wouldn't want one of those, I guess. I mean, it's just really as simple as that.
The thing that I really like about it is when the soybeans fall onto the Draper head, it's almost like a sickle bar mower. It just goes right onto it and gets taken away, and it doesn't slug through the combine at all. It's smooth and continuous. This year when we're running some 8-9% beans, you see a lot of people that have on regular combine that are just, the beans are just covering the entire field now that they're growing. If we're losing a bushel the acre, it would surprise me when we do our counts. That's about all we're catching. We're probably losing more through the combine than we are through the Draper head. I do a lot of no-till and have a lot of trash on the surface, and it just still skims across it really nicely. Last year I did have a 2388. This year it's a 7010. I was concerned about the expense of adapting it from one combine to another. It does have a quick attach hydraulics, and it was easily accomplished for a minimal amount of money, and it operates just as well as what it did last year. Really pleased with the way I was able to adapt from the 2388 to the 7010. Everyone's used to seeing beans pop on the windshield in those really dry conditions. I may get 1 or 2 pops a day on a windshield. It just doesn't happen. If you're wanting to increase productivity, save the bean, put it in the tank, the Draper head is going to be a unit you'd certainly want to be looking at.
Like any new product, I was a little bit skeptical when we first started out. After a couple days, becoming a little more comfortable with it and a little more accustomed to the features and things like that, I've actually grown to really, really like it. When I first looked at it and I saw that the sickle was just one piece, and it actually seems, I'm going to say, underbuilt when I first looked at it. And so my concern was, oh gee, I'm going to jerk the head off this sickle. I have stalled the sickle out probably 8 or 10 times, just a fence post or maybe a piece of metal, or one time it was a horseshoe, and like I said, I think part of that is combing the ground with that sickle. You tend to pick up a little more stuff, and so with it being hydraulic drive, it does stall it out. I think that's an advantage because there doesn't seem to be any need to repair the thing. So there's less damage, it seems like, with that. Same way with the beater drum in the middle, with that being hydraulic. I have this one's got the rock guard on it. I think that's a great thing. One thing is that if it does get over the rock guard, it seems like it'll feed it to the center that belt, and it'll lay in that little trough down there. And I did one time get a rock that got onto the belt, and the drum did stop. That was a pretty good sized rock, and so the drum stopped it. Being hydraulic drive, nothing was bent, nothing was scratched. Threw the rock out and started back up. The biggest benefit I see is the way the head feeds. With the belt delivery system, it's so consistent. It's like it almost forms a rope in the center and helps pull itself through. Until a person sees it run, I don't think you can completely understand how it feeds into the center, and without seeing those belts run, it's really amazing how it all comes together in the middle, and then the beater kind of helps feed it in. For being 40 feet wide, you think, boy, and not being a true flex head, you think you wouldn't be able to hug the contour of the ground, but it will hug the ground, it will shave the ground, it will feed the beans in. It runs smooth, so there's just, at this point, there's not really anything that I guess I'm not happy with. The ease of maintenance with the thing, the productivity, being able to start earlier and run longer, I think, would I do it again? Definitely, most definitely. We've cut about half of our beans so far, and my confidence level with the thing has went from, what I would say was probably subpar, being a little skeptical, switching kind of like jumping teams, but now after I've ran it, I really am pleased with the thing, and think that it's, as far as performance and efficiency and ease of maintenance, I think it's been a good move.
Just a nice head. I mean, I'm sold on it. Obviously, I've never done anything like this before, and not too many things I would do a testimonial on, but this is one thing I would.